Hey everyone, Mr. Male Trope here, and I felt like doing a video about myself. I decided to wear a Luigi hat so everyone would know it's me. And as far as the shirt, it's the only green one I had that matched the hat, and I liked Ninja Turtles growing up as a kid, so it is what it is. As far as my lighting setup goes, I didn't fuss with it too much. I just set something up that would work for what I'm doing. And I didn't set up a microphone anywhere to record the audio. I'm just using the one off the camcorder. So as far as the audio quality goes, it is what it is. But having said that, let's just do a little backstory here. I've always been the kind of person that likes to create things and make my own stuff. And I remember when I first started doing stuff like that, I think it was right around the time when the original StarCraft came out. And it had a pretty extensive map making system, and I started making my own StarCraft maps. And that's just one example of stuff I've done. And I've done various other stuff over the years. I'm not going to talk too much about that. But when I first started making films, one of the first things I did was to take other stuff and just edit it together. You know, I had to create a new narrative based on what I was missing. And eventually I grew past that and I started making actual films, and we're going to cover that later. So let's just go over a few things here. The first thing I want to talk about is writing. When I had taken an interest in film, I had decided at one point I might try screenwriting. So what I did is I picked up a book, The Complete Idiot's Guide to Screenwriting, and I started reading a lot of stuff online, articles and watching YouTube videos about screenwriting to learn enough about the process to do it myself. And I ended up writing a couple of screenplays. And then I was working on the third one, and I'm like, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. So I just put that aside and moved on to other stuff. And a couple of years later, I had picked up one of those screenplays and started reading them, and I'm like, this is terrible. I mean, my writing was awful when I first started doing it. But the point I'm trying to make with that is, at one point in my life, I started writing things and I learned about writing. And whenever I make one of my videos, I always type up a script. Or not a script, it's just a text file, and I read off of that into a microphone. And I feel the writing experience helped me in a way to be able to write things better for my audience. So that's just a skill set I picked up along the way. I'm not going to say I'm a great writer by any means, but I learned it at some point. Another thing I want to talk about that I had taken an interest at some point was bodybuilding. At one point, I was reading a lot about bodybuilding and training routines, and I started getting into like the nutritional side of bodybuilding, and I was what some would call a bodybuilding bro. A bodybuilding bro is somebody that builds an ideology about like nutrition and stuff, where everyone eats grilled chicken breasts and brown rice and oatmeal because that's what bodybuilders eat. And I was stuck in that ideology for a while till this guy came along named Alan Aragon. I had read something written by that guy, and at first I just blew him off. I'm like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Because I had it all figured out, man. I knew everything, and I wasn't going to listen to anyone that challenged my ideology. But eventually, that guy's name came up again, and I read something else by him, and as much as I wanted to disagree with him, I really couldn't find any flaws in what he was saying. When I actually sat down and listened to what the guy had to say, I'm like, this guy's technically right. I can't argue with him. So I started doing some research on him. And I started reading articles that was written by him and watching him debate people on the internet. And if you guys want to know where I learned how to pick apart a scientific study, I learned from someone else who does the same thing. I watched how he does it, how he finds the flaws in the studies, how he understands whether a study proves something or not, and how you compile data to prove something. Because it's not just you grab one study and say this is fact. You need lots of studies to actually prove something. And you need to understand the flaws in the study so you know whether they count or not. And with that experience, I would not say that I am qualified to do that kind of work, but I know enough about the process to know when somebody else didn't do it right either. Another thing I learned from him is the way he debates people. He was the kind of person that never got really hateful toward people. He never really got vile that I ever remember. He was humorous. He would say funny stuff and poke fun at people, but he was never a vile or hateful person from what I saw. And that's all he would do. Like, he would get into a debate with someone on the internet, and he would just keep that constant forward pressure. He wouldn't get overly aggressive. He wouldn't attack them, at least not in a vile manner. But he would keep that constant forward pressure. And one of two things would happen with people he would debate. They would either concede and agree that he's right, or they would ignore him. They'd block him. They wouldn't respond to him. They just wouldn't have anything to do with him because they didn't want to accept they were wrong. But I would like to think I learned also from him the right way to deal with that, with this kind of stuff. I have this theory that aggression is met with aggression. And when you start throwing too much hate at someone, sometimes they respond back aggressively. But if you stay calm and rational, sometimes the person you're debating stays calm and rational. Now, that's not to say you never aggressive. Sometimes you have to be aggressive with people. Sometimes you have to hammer home that point. Sometimes you have to just attack them. Attack their arguments, not physically attack them. But I learned that sometimes that's the best way to do it. So anyways, that aside, one of my two passions in life was martial arts. I did martial arts for several years, and I had a lot of fun doing it. As far as how good I was at it, some would say I was good, but my response has turned into, if I accomplished something worth talking about as a martial artist, I'd probably be doing that right now. And the reason I take that approach is people have a tendency to try to build themselves up to sound more impressive than they actually are. And if I was an impressive martial artist, I would have accomplished something worth talking about. But one thing that I was really good at was teaching it. I was really good at teaching martial arts. My instructor wanted me to go and open my own school. He wanted me to go and teach so bad. But the reality of it is, I didn't want to open a martial arts school and spend the rest of my life teaching it to other people. The two things I love to do as a martial artist is I like to train and I liked to compete. I competed a lot. But, and it wasn't full contact fighting. It was like point fighting. But, I loved competing. But teaching it just wasn't for me. I could teach an entire class. And working one-on-one with people, like where I have a training partner, that's where I really shined, was just working with someone one-on-one and getting them to understand things and being able to convey my point to them so they understand it, they can absorb it and learn it. And I could do that with an entire classroom full of people. But it's like I say, I know I'm reinforcing this point, but I didn't want to teach martial arts for the rest of my life. So I guess I could say I moved on past that. And it's something I still do once in a while. And I may, I haven't done any formal training in a long time, like training with other people in a martial arts school setting. But I may get back into it someday. Who knows? But that's one thing I did in my life. And that's where I learned how to convey information to people and teach people and stay on topic, So people actually learn from me as opposed to me just ranting on and people not learning anything. And the other passion I had in life was filmmaking. And that's something I started doing when I was around 19 years old, is when I did my first film. I was really into Dragon Ball Z back then, so I did my own live-action Dragon Ball Z fight with my nephew. And man, I thought that was like the the greatest thing in the world. And I had so much fun doing that. And then I watched that film later after I had gotten better at filmmaking, and I'm like, this is terrible. It was awful. Actually, come to think of it, I think I was a little older than 19 when I did that film. 19 is when I first took an interest in filmmaking. But anyways, and throughout the years, I would make films once in a while, my own short films. And eventually I just decided, you know what, I enjoy this so much, I'm going to start doing films on a regular basis. And that's when I started my other YouTube channel, which I have since deleted. It only had 16 subscribers, but I was like, well, if I'm going to make films, what do I want to do? And I like zombie movies, and I like martial arts. So I wanted to beat up zombies on film with martial arts. And I'm going to show you a clip of that right now. I'm going to show you the first zombie fight film that I ever did. And then we'll get back to this video. How do I survive a zombie apocalypse? I fight every damn day. So as you can see, it was pretty generic. There really wasn't much in the way of zombie makeup, but I had fun doing it. I enjoyed it, and people I knew thought it was kind of entertaining too. And I had done a couple of more zombie fights like that. And one thing I was learning to do was do makeup. I was getting this gray makeup that I was pitting on their bodies. And I was learning how to make these fake gashes, and I was learning how to make my own fake blood. I was really getting into this. And I was going to do some more zombie films and just keep beating up zombies on film with martial arts. But what happened was I had a couple of people that were going to play zombies, and they just decided they didn't want to do it. They bailed on me. And I was going to do something else with some coworkers they were interested in it. And that never happened. That's like on the back burner. I may still do something with them, but that's like on the back burner for right now. So I was stuck, not able to do zombie films, but I still wanted to make films, and I had no one else to make them with. So I was like, well, what can I do? And I had these little things called pop vinyl figures. They're these little collectible things that you can get, and this is Daryl from The Walking Dead. I also had Rick. Let's see. Yeah, Rick from The Walking Dead, and Michonne from The Walking Dead. And as you can see, since I like zombies, obviously I watch The Walking Dead, and I watch a lot of zombie movies. But I was like, why don't I just do a film with them? So what I did is I took them, and I bought a couple of more of these pop vinyl figures, and I made my own short film with those, where they were actually alive and interacting with me and moving around in my apartment and stuff, and like they were raising hell, they were causing trouble, and people thought that was really funny. And I had a blast doing that. So what I did is I bought some more of these pop vinyls, and I bought software so I could start green screening. And I started learning how to do stop motion and stuff. And so I'm going to show you a short clip right now of one of the stop motion clips I had on my other YouTube channel. Some of these, I did some short stop motions and some longer stop motions. And I'm going to show you one of the short ones right now.
Give me a milkshake. Chocolate.
Marty McFly wants a milkshake. But that's what I did. I learned how to make them walk on film and interact with them and do voice work and dialogue. And I was really getting into this. And I would write these scripts out, and I had friends that would do voices for the characters. And the little pop vinyls, these little guys would actually fight each other, and I was trying to develop character traits in them. And what I really liked about the pop vinyls is because there's so much pop culture in them, that they have pop vinyls for anything you can think of. Video games, movies, television shows. And I was going to start introducing all these new characters and have them all fighting each other and keep building it up and building stories on top of stories. And I just saw potential for what I was doing. I don't know if it ever would have went anywhere, but I was having a lot of fun doing it. And I had 4 complete episodes on my YouTube channel. And I was working on the 5th one. And that's when I had found out about this Anita Sarkeesian and her work. And truth be told, one of the things that really got me into it, it wasn't the defining moment, but it was watching her Bayonetta review. And I remember watching that and thinking, I never played Bayonetta, but one of my brothers played it. And he loved that game. He had a blast playing it. I think he played it through like twice maybe. And he didn't have anything bad to say about it. He didn't have any problems with it. And I'm like, why is Anita Sarkeesian hating on this game so much? If it was a perfectly fine game, and I started researching it, I'm like, well, a woman helped to design the character. And I read interviews with her, and she said she had women that liked the character design. And I'm like, why is Anita hating on this game so damn much when people liked the game? And that was one of the reasons I started doing what I'm doing. So anyways, and then I decided to start making videos responding to her work, and the rest is history. So now you guys know a little bit about me, and you know a little bit about my background, and I'm not going to say I'm an expert in any of that other stuff, but there are definitely skill sets I picked up along the way that I feel have helped me out in what I'm doing. And I guess it's just to say that sometimes there's more to people than you might know. And sometimes it's not just as simple as I just decided to start making YouTube videos. Like there was maybe something more there that you guys weren't seeing. And maybe I'll do more videos about other stuff down the road. Only time will tell. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you enjoyed getting to know a little bit more about me. So, with that being said, bye.